Hey there, Conquistadors. Welcome back to Table at Gaming for episode 3 of the Crucible of Will's Stoneface campaign. There was a Jenny Nicholson video a little while ago that talked about like people using like the government name of things. It makes me feel like such a shill. But we are excited to be here. We're not shilling, I promise. I'm Isaac.
I'm Brandon.
And I just said everything that we were going to do. I'm not going to cut or edit that in any way, so enjoy. Scenario 3 of the Stoneface campaign. Well, first, let me give you a little bit of a recap of where we've already been. Episode 1, Battle Report 1. Spoiler alert, if you haven't watched them, go back and watch it right now. Eric Schur won. His raids on the supply depots of the Dwegum were successful, and he was able to delay them from gathering enough supplies on the front line to do a formidable push. What happened in Scenario 2?
In Scenario 2, my guys, the Dweg, were trying to cross a bridge, and you were trying to explode in the support columns in a thrilling game of First Blood. And you said the game was essentially unwinnable for Dweg, and I proved to be the most winningest general. But I was winning.
That was pre-game conversation that never made it to the screen, but yes. We talked about how the scenario seemed unwinnable for the Dwegum, and then they won by turn 6. But Eric Schur won. Ragadosh won.
Yes.
We now come into Scenario 3, the march through the princely gates. The story is that Ragadosh comes across the Veiled Bridge,
yes,
which was not exploded in our story. But whether the Veiled Bridge is exploded or not does not actually have any consequences in the narrative, which I think is a pretty weird thing. Yeah. He comes across the Veiled Bridge, and then he has to make a decision between going through the forest, which is a quicker route but more dangerous, and going another way that's longer. Weirdly enough, that choice is not one that we, the players, make. That is made in the narrative, so Ragadosh decides to go the quick way. Eric Schur rallies his forces to defend them at a choke point defend against the Dwegum at a choke point called the Princely Gates. In the scenario, there is going to be a tower that represents the toll house. The Dwegum have to destroy it with their Throne of Anagalash, a unique unit for this campaign, which represents the dead first leader of the Hold of Gadam, and it's a cool little fluff piece. Rays that tame ironclad drakes continue to own the ironclad drakes even in death, so like their mummies ride around on them. Like they obviously don't, like there's no undead or anything happening. It's just he earned it and he gets to keep it in death, and I think that's really cool. So this is a special named one. Gates Flurry against towers, garrison pieces.
It hates civilization.
Yeah, it hates it. But yeah, excited to play through it. Let's jump into the army list.
So this is the Dwegum force. So we have Ragadosh in a unit of Thanes with a Herald of Stone and a banner. We have 1 unit of Dragon Slayers. We have 2 units of Hope Balliste. The second unit over here does have this Tempered Sorcerer attached. We have a 3-man unit of Inferno Automata. And then we have Fireforge with a Tempered Sorcerer in it. And then the crown jewel of the army is the special unit known as the Throne of Alagaush. And then it is important to note that we did get the special campaign artifact on Ragadosh that allows him to have more effective duels with the Dragon Silver Amulet. If a duel is refused, this also breaks the unit that denied the duel. So that is the artifact that he has.
This is the 100 Kingdoms army led by the glorious Eric Schur. He has taken command of the special Gilded Legion unit, the Hangman's Due. The Hangman's Due are a Gilded Legion unit that has a bunch of special rules, and I don't know which ones are new to them specifically, but they come included with a Standard Bearer and Drill Master, and they add +1 to their defense characteristic until the end of the round in which it was successfully charged by an enemy regiment. So they put up their pike wall and they defend. Then I have a unit of 6 Veteran Steel Legion with a Drill Master, I think is the upgrade. 4 non-veteran Steel Legion with no upgrades besides the standard. A seasoned veteran with 6 stands of Men-at-Arms, also veterans. And a veteran unit of Household Knights led by a noble lord Standard is not modeled, but just pretend one of the guys in the front is. I didn't have enough red paint to finish painting the actual standard. I'm so sorry. The Noble Lord is upgraded to all heck with just amazing items, and Eric Schur has both of the campaign-specific items. And that is the hyper-elite 100 Kingdoms army that looks tiny compared to that massive wall of Dwegum. The objective for this mission, for the Dwegum at least, is to destroy this tower manned by a free unit of mercenary crossbowmen. There are 4 stands of them, and they must be killed for the Dwegum to claim victory in this mission. There are also 2 9-inch round objectives at the halfway mark of the board. Each one of those is worth 2 VP per round for whoever claims them. But the Dwegum, again, must destroy those crossbowmen in that tower in order to win. So ultimately, victory points don't mean a lot in this mission.
Since the Dwegum won the battle for the Veiled Bridge, the 100 Kingdoms army gains a little bit of a special rule to help them come back in the campaign. They get to reroll resolve rolls of 6 while they're on an objective, and use the General's Resolve characteristic while he's on an objective. In this scenario, the Dwegum do not get to bring reinforcements on in the first battle round, representing that Eric Schur is prepared for their inevitable attack. In the first round, the 100 Kingdoms player has no lights in their list except for the mercenary crossbowmen, which are mandated to stay in the tower, and neither player gets any reinforcements, so we just kind of skip that turn. In round 2, the men-at-arms come in automatically, and the Household Knights roll and successfully come in as reinforcements for the 100 Kingdoms player, and the Dwegum player have the Fireforged come in automatically. They roll for 3 lights and a medium, and all of them successfully come in. These are the 2 units of Ballistae, their attached characters, a unit of Fireforged, a unit of Warriors, and a unit of Inferno Automata. The 100 Kingdoms player wins the Supremacy roll, and both players end up drawing off-board characters for their first draw, effectively stalling the first activations. The first activation, real activation of the round, is the 100 Kingdoms Household Knights coming in with a double march for 15 inches up the board. The Dwegum player draws their Tempered Sorcerer, who is still off-board, and stalls. The men-at-arms walk up the board immediately behind the Household Knights and take up a defensive position. Brandon is finally forced to actually activate a Dwegum unit and brings the Fireforged on the board right in the center of the field. I draw my final card of the round, the Mercenary Crossbowmen, in the tower, and with great optimism, measure to see if anything's in range. Unfortunately, even though the tower grants them 24-inch range in this scenario, I've got nothing in my sights, so that's my last thing of this turn. A unit of unaccompanied Hold Ballistae march onto the board and take up a position inside of the fort. On the other side of the field, the Hold Ballistae with the Tempered Steel Shaper march into their forest. Brandon then flips the 3rd card in the row. It's the Hold Warriors, and they march onto the board on the very edge of the field. For the final activation of the round, Brandon draws his Inferno Automata, marches them up through the forest in front of the Steel Shaper's Ballistae unit, and establishes a forward position with them. At the end of round 1, nobody has scored any points, but the battle lines have formed. The Dwegum host is looking mighty intimidating to the small amount of 100 Kingdoms forces that have made it onto the board so far. Isaac instructs the 100 Kingdom to hold back their Hangman's Due using Eric Schur's Forward Force special rule, and he holds back the Veteran Steel Legion as his automatic choice for the round, and then he fails his reinforcement rule for the other Steel Legion. There are no reinforcements for the 100 Kingdoms in round 3. The Dwegum bring their Thanes and Dragon Slayers on automatically using the flank provided by Ragadosh for the Thanes and the automatic choice for the Dragon Slayers, and succeeds at the heavy reinforcement roll for the Throne of Anagalash. So their entire army will be on board by the end of this round. The Supremacy roll is a tie, so I, as the 100 Kingdoms player, use my card advantage to force him to draw his first card, which will inevitably be a stall. It actually isn't a stall, and the Tempered Steel Shaper attempts to cast Hone Plate, Temper Plate, one of those Steel Shaper spells. on the Inferno Automata. Unfortunately, the Tempered Steel Shaper is unable to harness the elements and fails the cast. It turns out the 100 Kingdoms are the stalling one this round as they flip their Noble Lord and proceed to do nothing with him. Brandon's Hold Warriors scooch up the flank ever so slightly with their double march. The next draw for the 100 Kingdoms is the Men-at-Arms, whose seasoned veteran instructs them to raise their shields, giving them Bastion, and that they march through the Household Knights arrayed in front of them. The Dwegum player flips the Hold Ballisti card and chooses the unit on the top of the map in the forest and moves them forward. Priority goes back to the 100 Kingdoms. They draw the Household Knights, who leapfrog over the Men-at-Arms who had only just moved in front of them. The Dwegum draw a character card, do nothing with it, and pass. The 100 Kingdoms draw the Mercenary Crossbowman card, and nothing is found to be in range, so they pass. The Dwegum player, Brandon, draws the Inferno Automata and moves them forward with 2 marches, and specifically keeps them 11 inches away from the Household Knights, forcing them to need a march charge if they want to reliably get into combat. There is no foreshadowing happening at all right now. The Dwegum get to draw out for the rest of the round as the 100 Kingdoms deck is empty. The Fireforged move up towards the center of the board more and get a little bit into the swamp, and the Hold Ballisti in the southern half of the map move out of their forest to back up the Inferno Automata with their Steel Shaper. Ragadosh's Thanes march onto the board behind the Fireforged and between the 2 forests, basically down the center of the map. The Dragon Slayers move up into the southern forest that the Hold Ballisti had just abandoned. And the Throne of Anagalash, however you want to say it, moves into the forest behind the Hold Ballisti on the top side of the map. At the end of round 3, still nobody has scored any points, but the Dwegum line has crept inexorably forward, creating quite a threat for the 100 Kingdoms, who are still awaiting reinforcements. During round 4, I automatically bring in the Hangman's Due with forward force from Eric Schur. I automatically bring in the Veteran Steel Legion, and then I fail the reinforcement roll for the non-Veteran Steel Legion. Since the Dwegum don't have any cards to bring in anymore, they don't make any rolls. The 100 Kingdoms win supremacy for the round. Everything is coming together for the perfect play. I get to charge with my beefed up Death Star right into the Automata, kill them right in front of the Ballisti, who aren't going to charge me, and yeah, they'll do damage with their shots, but I'm Household Knights, I'm Defense 4, I'm 4 or 5 wounds each. It's going to be great. I decide, for whatever reason, that I'm going to take the 4+ roll with a reroll because of Banner to see if I can get a clash afterwards. I assumed that the impacts probably would have killed. I roll a 3, and then I roll like a 2. It's off camera, so you won't be able to see it. But yeah, shining moment of my career. My Household Knights stumble slightly forward instead of just absolutely pulverizing the Inferno Automata, and I start round 4 off strong. The Inferno Automata adopt a fluid formation, increasing their threat range. They successfully charge, then they clash, and they cause a total of 5 damage into the Household Knights, who really, really should have just done the march charge when they won the initiative. The Mercenary Crossbowmen take aim and fire upon the Fireforged, dealing a total of 3 damage to them with their ranged attacks. Brandon draws the Tempered Sorcerer, and he casts Temper Plate onto the Fireforged. A little late for that, but it might help later in the round, who knows. This time, he does successfully cast. Isaac draws the Noble Lord, who's hanging out with the Household Knights. There's no enemy character to duel, so he does not declare duel and passes his turn. Brandon draws his Tempered Sorcerer. There's nothing in range to cast any spells on, so he chain activates into the Fireforged and marches them forward. I draw Eric Schur, and he does nothing because he's off the board. Look at me, stalling. Brandon draws his Hold Warriors. They march up the board behind the house and kind of reform to face the objective. And I don't know, they're not really engaging in the game right now, so who knows what their plan is. We'll find out. Speaking of not engaging in the game, the Men-at-Arms activate, their seasoned veteran triggers Bastion, and they heckle the Knights for making such a dumb decision. The Hold Ballistae at the top of the board double march forward and prepare themselves to unleash their ballista weapons on the Mercenary Crossbowmen or anything else next round. Eric Schur and the Hangman's do come in from off the board. They do an immediate wheel, which I calculated beforehand, and then they march forward and kind of look scary in front of the Hold Ballistae and hope that they don't get shot at. And then I remember that Eric Schur, as an Imperial officer, gives Vanguard to an infantry unit every turn. They get Vanguard, so I move them forward an extra march, and they get even closer to the Hold Ballistae that they really hope doesn't shoot at them. The Throne of Anagalish moves himself forward with a double march, escaping the forest and backing up the Hold Ballistae, who are facing down the Hangman's Due. The Steel Legion with veterans are the recipient of the second Vanguard move of Eric Schur, and they march up 16 inches to solidify their presence on the board to back up the Hangman's Due and Eric Schur. The Hold Ballistae from the bottom half of the board that hang out with the Tempered Steel Shaper march forward and do a big wheel to orient themselves more towards the center of the board to provide support where they can. The Dragon Slayers march forward through the forest, and Ragadosh's Thanes promenade forward into the swamp. The first shots and blows have been exchanged in this battle. The Dwagam creep inevitably forward, their battle line getting ever closer to the 100 Kingdoms. And because Hold Rays, including Ragadosh, allow light command stands to score, the Dwagam have scored 2 victory points. In round 5, my Steel Legion that aren't veterans come in automatically, and I win priority, so the 100 Kingdoms are going first. Again. My first draw this time is Eric Schur's unit of Hangman's Due, who use Bastion to gain 1 defense. Then they immediately charge into the Hold Ballistae unit, and after a series of violent rolls, thanks to the Drill Master adding an extra attack per stand, and their good support, and Eric Schur kind of being good in combat himself, especially with all the items that he's got, which actually, thinking about it, I don't think actually impact his ability to clash. But anyways, he makes the charge, and he ends up killing 14 wounds of the 15 wounds of the Hold Ballistae, meaning that their command stand is alive, which means nothing else can shoot or charge. Well, they can shoot, but it's blocking a lot of charges because of the positioning of everything on the field. Speak of the Devil, the Throne of Anagalish activates next, and he doesn't have any room to charge into the Gilded Legion, so he ends up passing his turn. The Mercenary Crossbowmen in the tower take aim and fire at the Fireforged and deal another 3 points of damage with their volley. The Infernal Automata activate, they inspire, they clash, and they end up doing 6 points of damage to the Household Knights, killing a stand and horribly wounding another stand. I draw Steel Legion. I choose the veteran unit that's on the board, and they double march up to get behind the Hangman's Due and support them in case they need it, or I guess clean up after the Hangman's Due gets slaughtered when the inevitable pile of enemy Dwagam pile onto them. The Tempered Steel Shaper activates, and he tries once again to cast Harden Armor, or Temper Plate, or whatever it's called, on the Infernal Automata, and this time succeeds. He then chain activates into the hold ballistae the Tempered Steel Shaper has joined. They march forward onto the objective and then shoot at the mercenary crossbowmen in the tower that is the objective. They roll pretty good, and they end up doing 4 damage, killing an entire stand, one of the 4 that the mercenary crossbowmen in the tower have. So he's 1/4 or 25% of his way to his final goal to win the scenario. The Household Knights activate and take 4 damage from the Aura of Death from the Inferno Automata. Then they inspire and they clash back, knowing that the entire battle could depend on their effort here. And they end up doing 7 total damage between clash and resolve, killing one and most of another stand of Inferno Automata, not enough to break them or anything interesting. The Tempered Sorcerer activates. He casts Fireball, I think. Ah, man, I can't remember. I should probably just review the footage, but I won't. I'm wasting time talking. All right. He casts a spell and ends up doing 6 points of damage between the actual spell cast and the resolve into the mercenary crossbowmen, meaning that they're broken because they've got a total of 10 damage on them. That's 2 stands dead out of their initial 4. Things are looking bleak for the 100 Kingdoms protecting this toll gate. The Fireforged get chain activated into by the Tempered Sorcerer and annihilate what little remains of the mercenary crossbowman unit, meaning that the Dwegum have accomplished half their goal. The Men-at-Arms activate, they bastion up, and they move a little bit forward to fill the gap where the dying knights left open from the Inferno Automata slaughtering them and, the Aura of Death burning them alive. I'm sure the Men-at-Arms don't have any problems with, the situation that's unfolding in front of them. I'm sure their resolve is very high right now. I'm sure they're handling it very well. Ragadosh's unit moves forward, more into the center of the board, remains wading through the swamp because he can't move far enough forward because of his hold ballistae. I draw my Noble Lord, who is not in a position to do anything, so he passes. Brandon draws his hold ballistae that are engaged with the Hangman's Due. They clash after rallying because they're broken and do 0 damage. The final regiment between the 2 armies, the non-veterans 4 stands of Steel Legion, make a big wheel onto the board to come on from reinforcements, and I guess they're going to anchor the line when the Household Knights inevitably die and support the Men-at-Arms. Who knows what the plan is? That flank's gone. The Dragon Slayers move forward. And then the Hold Warriors reform to face the Gilded Legion, the Hangman's Due, and I guess charge in if they have to when the Hold Ballistae finally dies. Round 5 ends with the Dwegum gaining 6 points, 4 for killing the mercenary crossbowmen and 2 for holding an objective. The 100 Kingdoms hold an objective and thus gain 2 points. Thus, the score is 2 for the 100 Kingdoms and 8 for the Dwegum. And things are looking very grim for the 100 Kingdoms. This toll house is not going to hold much longer. Dwegum win the supremacy for round 6, just what the 100 Kingdoms need. The Inferno Automata inspire and clash into the Household Knights, who block all the attacks. The Hangman's Due activate, triggering Bastion. Then they clash and kill the Hold Ballistae that they had ravaged before. And then they sidle off to the side to try to not get charged by the Hold Warriors and not charge the Ironclad Drake because they get defense bonuses when they are charged. Ragadosh's Hold Thanes activate and they leapfrog over the Fireforged and create a little defensive wall. The Veteran Steel Legion perform a charge into the front of the Hold Thanes that just moved. They clash into them, and with all of their mighty attacks, with the Veterans buff and the Drill Master and everything going on, They end up doing 5 damage between Clash and Resolve, which kills an entire stand of Hold Thanes, which is huge considering they're hardened 2, and thus ignoring all the cleave that I'm putting out. The Dragon Slayers activate and march in between the Hold Ballisti and the losing combat, maybe, Inferno Automata, so that if the Inferno Automata do lose, the Dragon Slayers run in, kill the Noble Knights, and the men-at-arms behind them. I draw Eric Schur, he does nothing. Brandon draws the Tempered Steel Shaper, and he hardens the the Inferno Automata successfully. The non-veteran Steel Legion march up into a supporting position. The Household Knights activate, taking a single point of damage from Aura of Death. They inspire and clash into the Inferno Automata, which does enough damage, thankfully, even with just the Noble Lord and the leader of the Knights left, to kill the last 2 stands of Inferno Automata. Everybody cheers. Brandon draws the Tempered Sorcerer, who doesn't have any line of sight, so he can't cast any of his fire spells. So he chain activates into the Fireforged, who back off back into the swamp and then reform to get angles for hopefully the next round. The men-at-arms are drawn and, having nothing better to do, bastion up and chill. The Hold Ballisti also really don't have much to do, so they just kind of hang out. I draw the Noble Lord, who doesn't have anything to do at all, so he hangs out. The Hold Warriors are upset that the Gilded Legion didn't take the bait and charge into the throne of Anagalish, and so they also hang out. The final activation of the round is the throne of Anagalash charging. The Hangman's Due. In Impact, he kills a stand and a half, and then in his actual clash, he finishes off the stand and does a further 1 damage. This is all between the actual attacks and Resolve, by the way, leaving the unit with half of its models left. But luckily it can't be broken because Eric Schur brought the item. I forget its name, but it's the campaign-specific item that makes the unit he's attached to unable to be broken. The Dwegum, at the end of round 6, score 2 points for holding an objective, 2 points for holding another objective, I worded that weird, and 1 point for scoring an objective with the Throne of Anagalish, meaning Dwegum have 13 points and 100 Kingdoms are still at 2. Very bleak picture for the Pravians. The Dwegum win supremacy, going into round 7. The Throne of Anagalish acts first. He inspires and clashes into the Hangman's Due, killing all of them, but not before Eric Schur gets to die fighting and deal 5 wounds by himself back into the throne. The Household Knights activate, they charge, and they clash, and they deal 4 points of damage between the 2 into the Dragon Slayers. The Tempered Steel Shaper attempts to cast Hone Blades onto the Hold Thanes, and succeeds. The 6 stands of Veteran Steel Legion inspire and clash into Ragadash's Thanes and deal 1 point of damage. The Dragon Slayers activate, they clash without inspiring, and absolutely annihilate the Household Knights that remain, and move forward to keep the men-at-arms off the objective. The non-veteran, non-drill mastered Steel Legion activate. After I draw the Gilded Legion and Eric Schur, who are both dead, they charge and they clash into the Dragon Slayers, dealing 5 damage, finishing off 1 wounded stand and doing 1 damage to another.
All right, folks. We just called it. Well, didn't just call it because the camera ran out of batteries. We talked through. We saw the points. What was the scoreboard?
I was at 13 at bottom of 6, and you were at 2.
All right. So what went wrong? Let's do a quick little analysis. I tried to do something fun and interesting, and I tried to make a 4+ rerollable charge, which 4+, even rerollable, isn't that high of an odds. It's like less than 50% chance on the initial roll. It's like 75% chance or something. Yeah. So, like, there was a 25% chance of me whiffing it like that. Okay, yes, I should have just March Charged. It would have been, like, literally 24, Clash 4, rerolling 6s, impact hits, terrifying, and... Yeah, I just really wanted, because I had paid for Wedge, so I wanted the follow-up Cleave Clash attacks. I thought that would be funny. Probably unnecessary, like probably the 24 attacks would have done most of the way to kill the Inferno Automata. And honestly, I probably didn't fully want them dead because I think it was protecting me against some of your shooting and stuff.
Yeah, I think the best thing for you is that if you would have moved and then charged against the Automata, I
would have been on the objective.
And you would have boxed me out.
Yeah.
And then even if you did 2 stands of Automata worth of like killed 2 stands with your charge, which is buff, so I think that's possible.
You'd be way further back.
I'd be further back. I would have to wait till the Automata died before I could get something else in. Yeah. The next unit was a bunch of Ballista, so yeah, sure, you're going to take a bunch of hold Ballista attacks. Like, not nothing, but like, that's not doing much to 6 stands of hold that are scoring every turn.
Right. It would have stopped the Aura of Death, or I would have taken minimal Aura of Death.
Yeah.
Second mistake on my part, the Steel Legion, I forgot 6 attacks every time I rolled because I was like, oh, there's 7 attacks for the leader, 6 attacks for each stand in the front. 7 plus 6 is 13. Then 3 supporting attacks. That's 19 total. No, it should have been 25 each time. That I don't think it would have done that much more damage to the Hold Thanes, but it would have done a little bit more damage to the Hold Thanes, and that could have been super valuable. Third mistake, I forgot literally all of the special rules for this scenario that benefit me, so I would have gotten reroll 6s on the objectives, which would have helped my Knights, would have helped my Gilded Legion, would have helped, I'm not sure who else, but also... Oh no, that wouldn't have mattered much because if the Warlord's on a objective, every unit on the field gets to use his resolve, which wouldn't have helped that much. Fourth mistake.
Yeah,
I think I should have had light units. I
was gonna say the one thing I would say for like as like feedback for the next campaign. I know there's one for Sorcerer Kings apparently in the works. It would be good if since your login to the app is connected to your account, it'd be good if there was a code or something that would unlock the unit profiles here in the army builder. It is very hard to be like I use a phone. It's easiest to be like looking at the Iron Drake and be like, okay, wait, Iron Drake is 1 less cleave, but it's got 4 more, and there's a lot of flipping around in the book that does slow things down. Obviously we're filming and other stuff, but just as a
filming
makes
it harder. I have a newfound respect for the like live action kind of guys who are known for getting rules mistakes. I now understand why, having done this a couple times.
But it would be good if these were in the army and you could digitally check them, because I think it would help. And then the other feedback related to that is it is cool that there's so many storied elements, units in this game. But the problem is with 4 missions, with each mission having a different set of units that are special, you don't really learn the rules. So the problem is the first rule I got special things, second one I got special other guys, and so on and so forth. And then like I play a game, I learn the rules, and then we cycle it. The last game they'll come back and that's good, but the problem is, once again, like
you're not familiar with any of them.
And it changes how you would play them. So it'd be cool if you either got to stick with them a little bit longer, or they were digital, so you could, when you make your digital army list, you'd remember them.
Yes. Especially, like, you should be able to build a list in the army builder for this, because then you have literally everything all in one spot. And that was a problem that we were having a lot as you just went through. Yeah. But overall, that's 1 win for the 100 Kingdoms, 2 for the Dwegum. We're going to approach the final battle upcoming soon. We'll film it as soon as we can. Hopefully it'll be a big epic show. And see you in the next Conquest.